And welcome to our interview session right here at General Conference. We're so delighted to have you here and joining with us. Today we're going to be talking about Compassion Services International in Ukraine and the work that's being done there, the work that you are helping do in Ukraine. And today I'm joined by my co-host right here, Jeremy Dowdy, who is with Compassion Services International, and he heads up our humanitarian post. And also, all the way from Poland, we have Brother Tony Adams. He's joining us via Skype. You can see him on the screen. And all the way from the country of Ukraine, we have our beloved Brother Sergei Tomev, and we're so delighted to have them together with us. So today we're just going to get just right in. We're jumping right in with our hosts and our great team that we have here today, our members of this panel. And I want to go to Brother Sergei. He can hear me, I believe, all the way there. And Brother Sergei, just tell us about the beginning of the war and the effects it's had on the church and the people in the country of Ukraine.
Greetings, everyone. And I would like to say thank you for the opportunity. And right from the beginning, I want to say thank you to Compassion Services and everyone who donated and helped us from the beginning of this war. For us, the war started at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it happened suddenly. I woke up from a phone call from a sister in our church, and then another phone call, and then from a loud explosion by our house shook, and everything started suddenly. And you never planned for this. You don't know how to prepare for this kind of stuff. And so when the war started, a lot of the people just started evacuating and moving out, trying to find a safer place. And when the war started, before the war, our church ran around 120 people. And when the war started, a week later, we had only 12 people left in Kyiv. Everyone evacuated and left their houses, their apartments. And when the war started, all the roads, everything was blocked. Everything shut down. The whole country was shut down. And only one thought everyone had: evacuate, run to a safer place. And it was hard to make a decision even at that point, because you never seen this kind of stuff. Airplanes, helicopters, tanks, bombs exploding. And the next morning, the same morning, I live outside of Kyiv, and the road was already basically blocked. And from what I understood, it was a line already all the way to Poland, people trying to evacuate. So it was a disaster, and it changed everything in 1 second.
Well, that is live from Ukraine. You're hearing Brother Sergei live from Ukraine, so we are excited that we were able to join in. Also, all the way from the country of Poland, we're delighted to have right here Brother Tony Adams. They're missionaries, and they're only about 2 hours or so from the border, and we've been able to be there with him. Just tell us a little about the influx that you started seeing of the Ukrainians into Krakow in your response that you've jumped in so greatly and done.
First of all, I want to say thank you to CSi and the team, Brother Hadabal, Brother Dowdy, for everything you've done to help us here in Poland, to help the Ukrainian people. Krakow, Poland is about 2.5 hours from the Ukrainian border. And shortly after the war began, the same day, the border was overrun with people. The line waiting across the border sometimes would take people 2 to 3 days to get to the border and to cross the border. These were mainly women and children trying to get to safety. And so it was just chaos at the time. I had spoke with Pastor Sergei, wanted to offer all we could to help. So we decided to, first of all, to change our church building into a refugee center. We could house up to 30 per night. Our church took the first refugees on the Friday after the war began. And from then, we were pretty much full every night. We were able to process somewhere around 250 refugees through the worship center, our church. We help them with whatever they need, place to stay, place to sleep, food, transportation on to a further destination. But we couldn't handle everybody, and we really couldn't provide the housing that is needed for transitional housing and those that needed to stay longer. So while we were sprinting to cover the need that was immediate, we also were trying to look for something long-term. And that's when the hotel project came about. It's a hotel that actually sits behind me right across the street from my house. And it had been bankrupt. We approached them, asked if we could rent the place. It had basically been being closed down, wasn't going to be used as a hotel anymore. With the help of God and the favor of God, we were able to secure some lease contracts on there for 6 months. And so after 2 months of having the worship center open 24 hours a day, on April 27th, we were able to move the first refugees into the hotel. This would give moms and children a private room, their own bathroom. We created a community kitchen that we had installed. We had laundry services installed. And this could be some sort of transitional housing to create some sort of dignity to life. And so from that point, CSi, of course, came in strong to help us not only remodel, reconstruct, plumbing, electricity, everything to make it happen. And currently, as we stand right now, we are housing 110 refugees. 58 of them are children. And God is helping us in so many ways, and we really appreciate CSi for making this possible.
And Tony Adams and your team are doing an amazing job there. Jeremy Dowdy, a part of our Compassion Services National, was able to go with us. We've been there a few times. Just fill us in a little bit how the teams became essential to bring the strength to what the Adams are doing there and to the work that's going on in Ukraine.
I think the interesting thing was, what was it, a week or 10 days after the war started, we were on a Zoom phone call. First, I was introduced to Tony Adams, and there was UPCI missionaries and a host of people trying to figure out what do we need to do to help. And we said the first thing that we can do is get over there and let's get supplies and take them in the resources that they need. We were able to purchase resources once we got there. But that was an interesting thing because at the time, COVID and travel, and so you're trying to find people who can go on basically 3 days notice, I think is what we went on. And so we started taking, we were affectionately called Team One, and there were 5 of us who went in and went to Krakow, Poland, and we were able to witness what was going on there. I think when we first arrived and landed, Brother Adams took us to the train station where many of the refugees were coming in. And I would say, there were, in my mind, there were probably 800 to 900 people in the train station, sleeping, living, and we were appalled at that. But 4 days later when we left, that was double. There were probably 1,800 to 2,000 people. They're just flooding in. We witnessed Brother Adams constantly helping people and getting them to the right places. We took teams, after Team One, there were other teams that went in, some that went in through Romania to get supplies more to the Tomev family and the church there in Ukraine. So we had drivers, and these were just wonderful saints of God who knew how to drive like 6-speed semis or whatever, and drove in supplies to help the church there in Ukraine and the communities that they serve. So we've had people in Krakow that are cooking, they're doing construction and cleaning. I think you took a team in for medical missions there into Ukraine, and just people absolutely volunteering their time, their resources, self-funding to go on. But I think that what makes a big difference with this is that not everybody's able to go, and the teaming financially that has helped to give these, especially like these 2 great missionary families, help in securing places and resources for the refugees.
Another thing happened that was pretty powerful. We had a special guest that was invited themselves and came in. Just tell us a little bit about that, Brother Jeremy, how that got out and how it all happened.
Well, that was interesting and a powerful piece because of the Ukrainians' recognition of who that was. Keep a long story short, basically we received a phone call from another humanitarian organization. We partner with a couple different ones. People focus in different areas. We got a phone call asking for Ivanka Trump had inquired and wanted to be a part of this. Her grandmother was just not very from a town not too far away in Slovakia. And so these people and this area was close to her heart. She came, so we met her in Krakow, and she came and did an event and did food and toys for children and gift cards for these refugees. Tony and Rhonda Adams did a wonderful job setting all that up. But the notoriety that has happened just because one team went over and said, what can we do? Now they've received a lot of resources to help them fund this hotel.
And that was a great, great connection for us and for the church there and the people. To Brother Tomev, what are the effects that you're seeing on the church in Ukraine, and how can others help you with that?
Well, the Bible says what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it for good. And right now we have around 8 million refugees in Ukraine. Over 7 million left Ukraine, but around 8 million in Ukraine. And when we managed to get back to Kiev, we even when we evacuated, compassion services and teams started driving in funds and resources to Romania, and we were able to bring a lot of resources to Kiev and other places and start already helping people. And when it was safe, we were able to bring back our families to Kiev and relaunch the services. And we started having a lot of people just coming to service, coming to church. Right now, at this point, we have every service around 300 people that come to our church services on Sundays. And we prayed for revival, but we never thought that revival was going to happen through a war. And so a lot of people are coming. Right now, we have around 30 people in Bible studies. We already, since the war started, we baptized in Ukraine 29 people in Jesus' name. And right now, around 1,000 people are getting help every month just in our Kiev church. I think it's same, probably 1,000 or more in Odessa church. And so a lot of people come to get help because 8 million refugees, that's millions of people that lost everything, lost their homes, life savings. They just ran away. And when they come to our church services, they come, they, first of all, they feel the love of God. That's most important. They hear the gospel. And then we're able to pray with them and give them food and give them clothes. So the effect this war had on the church, it's a good effect, if we can say it like this, because a lot of people hear the gospel and they come to God. The need is great because millions of people are without homes, without food, without clothes, basically. And right now, we're trying to provide that. And first of all, we need, and we ask you all to pray for Ukraine because it's a spiritual war most of all. I'm asking you to pray for Ukraine and continue to give, to support through compassion services, any way you can, because when the war started, that's the first help came in, and the churches were the first ones to open their doors and provide help for the people. So we need food, we need clothes, and most of all, we need prayers that God would help us through this war and we see people saved and this war would end. So thank you. I want to say thank you again to everyone. And we feel the prayers, we feel the support from day one, and we value this. Thank you.
If you're just joining us, you are hearing live all the way from Ukraine, our pastor there, and now also just closing out Tony Adams. Very, very quickly, what are the effects you're seeing on your local congregation that's having on your church, what all the work you're doing?
Very quickly, at first, it was a tremendous challenge. All of a sudden, your house of worship has turned into a place where people sleep, and you're trying to worship the Lord, and someone's making coffee or frying an egg for breakfast. But God blessed, and now we have seen tremendous growth in our church. We're experiencing tremendous revival. Our people, our core group has wrapped their arms around and loved people and worked and helped and volunteered. And so far we have baptized 10 from Ukraine in the precious name of Jesus Christ. And God is doing a wonderful work in our community. We're experiencing great revival in Krakow, and we're excited about the future, what God has in store.
Thank you so much. Tony Adams, all the way from Poland, that is broadcasting live into our arena here today. Jeremy Dowdy, our humanitarian director, just kind of encapsulate what does it mean for us to be involved with this compassion services in the Ukrainian crisis?
I think a powerful two powerful points are awareness and engagement. What we're seeing are the teams that are going, they want to do something, and there are people who want to serve. And so by going and seeing, it actually becomes real to you. Engaging with the missionary, engaging with the mission. I think when people come back and they tell their circles of people or in social media or the church, it brings about a greater awareness in communities, in your church community, in their families, in their work environments, but it also gets them engaged with what is going on around the world. All of us can sometimes be in somewhat of a bubble, and that's not always a horrible thing, but the awareness and the engagement is the most powerful piece because people actually start living the mission and they come home and it's real to them. And I think that's the powerful piece for the American church.
Maybe you can't go, but you can go through prayer and through giving. And today we have given you an incredible insight into what's going on, into the crisis in Ukraine, and how our church is responding to it. You heard live all the way from Krakow, Poland, our missionaries there, brother and sister, they're doing an amazing job. Tony Adams and his wife, they're doing a great job. And you also heard from brother Tomev all the way from the Ukraine, and he is there live broadcasting in. And so I want to thank you for joining us. If you just tuned in, we are glad that you're here. Thank you. We're wrapping this segment up with something Brother Sergey encapsulates exactly what CSi stands for. And this was his personal quote. It says, "We come with food and we come with supplies in one hand, but we come with the gospel in the other hand." And you with CSi have partnered together to make a difference in the wonderful things that are being done in the Ukrainian crisis of the refugees. So we thank you. Let me remind you, Compassion Services is always going to be working and responding around the world when there's a time of need or crisis, whether it's education or humanitarian aid, or is it medical, or is it a disaster relief. We're going to be there. CompassionServices.org, www.compassionservices.org. We say welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time. Wrap it up for us and tell us a goodbye to this great audience.
We appreciate your attention. And as Brother Hadabal said, prayer is one of the most important pieces that you can do. I think you've heard Brother Adams and Brother Sergey both ask for prayer. These are our brothers and sisters. The fight is real. The situation is real. And one of the things that they have cherished the most when we talk to them and been on the ground is thank you for praying for us. So remember to pray. When you can, please give. And by all means, if you want to go, CompassionServices.org. There's an application there. We have places all around the world that need good saints doing wonderful work and serving in all kinds of areas. God
Live
bless
from
you.
General Conference 2022 Orlando in the Global Missions area, we say thank you for joining us.